The war had barely begun, and already America faced a crisis that had nothing to do with bombs or battleships. December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor burns. Across the Pacific, U.S. forces prepare to strike back. But before they can fight the enemy, they must survive the elements. In the jungles of the Philippines and the islands of the South Pacific, American troops sleep in canvas tents that rot under tropical rains. Supply depots flood. Ammunition spoils. Soldiers fall ill with pneumonia. The U.S. military, powerful as it was, had no shelter strong enough, light enough, and simple enough to withstand the world's harshest conditions. And so, from this desperate need, an unlikely hero would be born, not made of flesh and blood, but of corrugated steel. A structure so brilliant in its simplicity, it would change the face of modern warfare. The Quonset Hut. In early 1942, with war raging across two oceans, the U.S. Navy issued an urgent command: design a building that can be shipped anywhere, built by anyone, and survive anything. The task fell to the engineers of the George A. Fuller Construction Company and the Navy's Bureau of Yards and Docks. They had just 60 days to create the impossible. Their laboratory was a small, wind-battered base in Rhode Island, Quonset Point. There, amid the snow and salt air, engineers unrolled blueprints that would soon reshape military history. Their idea was simple, yet revolutionary: an arched, all-metal structure that could be shipped flat, assembled without cranes, and endure monsoons, sandstorms, and snow. Its ribbed steel frame gave it strength. Its half-cylinder shape gave it stability. They called it the Quonset Hut, after the place of its birth. Within weeks, the first prototypes were built, tested, and approved. What began as a wartime emergency solution became a symbol of American ingenuity. Factories roared to life. At the Butler Manufacturing Company in Kansas City, production lines rolled out hut after hut, tens of thousands of them. Each 20 by 48 feet, each packed flat into a single crate, each capable of being assembled in a single day by a handful of untrained men. From the burning beaches of Guadalcanal to the frozen tundra of Alaska, these silver half-moons of steel began to appear, rising overnight like metallic mushrooms across every front line of the war. Inside these curved walls, life carried on amid chaos. Medics treated the wounded under makeshift hospital lamps. Mechanics repaired jeeps and tanks through the night. Chaplains held Sunday service as rain hammered on steel above. The Quonset Hut became everything: barracks, mess halls, command posts, chapels, and morgues. Soldiers wrote letters home from its cramped bunks, dreamt of peace beneath its corrugated roof, and carved their initials into its steel ribs. By 1945, more than 150,000 Quonset Huts had been produced. They stood wherever the American military went, symbols of survival, adaptability, and quiet strength. Then came peace. The guns fell silent, and millions of American soldiers returned home. But home was not ready for them. Cities were overcrowded, housing was scarce, families needed roofs over their heads. Once again, the Quonset Hut answered the call. Surplus huts were sold to civilians for just a few $100s. Veterans transformed them into homes. Churches, classrooms, and workshops sprouted from the same steel bones that had once stood in jungles and deserts. College campuses filled with returning GIs used them as dormitories and lecture halls. Children grew up inside them. Teachers taught history within their curved walls, often the same history those huts had just helped make. Architects soon took notice. They added glass, wood, and even color. They reimagined the Quonset Hut not as a wartime relic, but as a modern, modular marvel. Across America, these humble structures adapted to civilian life, serving as diners, stores, hangars, and homes. They were cheap, practical, and almost indestructible. What had started as a temporary wartime solution had evolved into a symbol of post-war resilience, proof that innovation born in crisis could outlast the very war that created it. And remarkably, many of those huts still stand today. In Alaska, they endure sub-zero winters. In Hawaii, they resist salt and storm. In deserts, they bake under the sun and never collapse. Their descendants live on in modern prefab homes, eco-shelters, and military bases around the world. The curved steel silhouette of the Quonset Hut remains instantly recognizable, a piece of wartime genius that became a timeless design. They weren't elegant, they weren't glamorous, but in a world torn apart by war, they worked. The Quonset Hut saved lives, housed hope, and stood as a silent witness to one of humanity's darkest and most transformative eras. Born from desperation, forged in steel, built to endure, the Quonset Hut is more than a building. It's a testament to what happens when human ingenuity meets necessity, a metal miracle that helped win a world war and continued to shelter the dreams of peace that followed. The next time you see one of those half-moon steel huts standing quietly on a hill or behind a barn, remember, it once stood on the front lines of history. The Quonset Hut, the humble hero of World War II. The metal miracle, the story of the Quonset Hut. Subscribe for more untold stories of innovation, courage,